This conference will now be recorded.
Now, did you share the handouts with your people? No? Okay, there are handouts with
there are handouts, and we'll provide them after everybody.
And so, what I was going to say, especially to the interns, if you want to impress me, take notes. You learn more by taking notes. We got to get into start presentation. This thing's faster than mine. From the beginning. Ta-la! There we go. And if you haven't already, silent your phone and give me a little attention so you're not distracted. No multitasking during this. You won't get the same input out of it. And for our formal presentation that we did, we wanted to thank Steinbach Company for lunch that was provided. The four of us had a very, very nice lunch, thanks to them. This is your Ashrae Code of Ethics. That we will treat each other with respect and courtesy and competence, etc. It's basically everything you learned in kindergarten still applies. Wait, what is Ashrae stand for again?
American Society of Heating and Refrigeration Engineers.
All right, there you go. Now, I had to find out what YEA,
Young Engineers in Ashrae.
In Ashrae, yeah, YEA is an acronym well buried and not shared easily. That was not easy to find. The learning objectives of what I'll be talking about today is basically how an architect selects the team, what the architect expects, how to define success, and that's about a third of it. The last 2/3 is more for the EITs as to tidbits and takeaways. Ask questions as we go if you have any. I wrote this presentation before I saw some of the presentations I had that had already been recorded. I was really impressed by the one that Craig Perdine did and that Tracy did. Mine mirrors an awful lot of theirs. I added a few slides afterwards of good things that they brought up that came to my mind, but those two specifically were very good and to the point. So if you haven't seen those, I would recommend going back to the recorded archives and taking a peek at those. Those were very good. I've been in practicing architecture up here for 40 years. I've been a principal with RIM for 21 years, designer, project manager, principal, etc., with a lot of accreditations, i.e. I'm an overachiever. A little about me. So, education. Welcome to part 2 of your education. What do I mean by that? Who here knows everything? Tracy?
No.
Rebecca?
I don't have
Jesse?
anything.
Craig? Nobody knows everything here. I don't know everything. Your employer understands this. That's good. But what they don't want is a drafting monk. We can get people to draft cheaper overseas. We need this thing up here to work. This thing between your ears. That's the important thing that you were hired for, not your drafting skills, your designing skills. School gave you tools to become a good designer. Now starts the practical. This is part 2 of your education. You need to learn to be, your employer is investing in you. You may be the future of the firm. So their expectations of you will change as your abilities change throughout your growth and the responsibilities that you take. Now, how cool is it that you get to design in Alaska? Think about this a little bit. There's no Home Depot out in McGrath or Queefluck. Shoot, there's not even a road out to McGrath or Queefluck. How are you going to get your materials out there? This is wild out there. This is fun. People outside don't understand. Well, you can get there by a county road, right? There's no county roads in Alaska. Number of highways we got, you can count on your two hands. That's it. This is a different environment that we work in up here that they don't understand outside. And it's wild, and it's fun, and it's challenging. So it's pretty cool. This is part of the whole education program that they did not teach you in school. So how does this architect select a team? A lot of it is prior performance, successful projects. Successful projects is the big key. Excessive change orders, not impressive. History of design errors, not impressive. Ability to complete time, on time and budget, impressive. Those are big words. Prior performance with the building type is brought into consideration. If you've never done a ski chalet on the top of a mountain, there's some logistics to that you need to understand. Maybe we got to find somebody that does know that kind of experience. Or we just did a bridging document for a training center on the top of Eagle Glacier above Girdwood. Access only by helicopter. Well, that structural engineer really needs to know how to modularize this thing or panelize it, whichever the team needs to deal with, in order to make that a successful project. Sometimes it's going to come down to a client recommendation. All things equal, I will quite often ask the client, I need a mechanical and electrical engineer. Who do you have a good experience with in your building and that you like working with? You like CRW. Tracy, got a job for you. So sometimes it's the clients that's driving that. Sometimes it's work that's brought to us. You guys have brought work to us. We'll reciprocate that favor and bring work back to you too. That's good. It's a nice tuning that we go through. Sometimes it's just showing us the interest or brought that RFP to our attention. Quite often I'll get a call from one of my structural engineers that, hey, did you see this RFP just got released? We'd love to be on your team. I wasn't even aware of that thing. Thank you very much. Yep, you just came to the top of the list. Doesn't always go that way, but that is a factor that we do take into consideration. So there's a lot of things that we bring into factors, and to some degree, this is kind of a priority list of mine of how I work when I'm selecting a client. And this is probably pretty true for our firm. Got to have integrity, ingenuity, responsibility, respect, ethics. These are musts. These aren't options. We expect this. Don't disappoint or discredit the architect. That will get you absolutely nowhere, and then get you nowhere real fast. Don't disappoint the client. That will be remembered as well. If you make me look good and the client is happy, that's a successful project. Know who's in the lead. Generally, it's the architect for new vertical construction. Sometimes it's the engineer. We're doing an HVAC upgrade together. Tracy's the lead on that. I'm working for her. On the other hand, we did a roof replacement out at Mears. That's my project. She's working for me. Same things back and forth. So the roles depend on who is the lead. You must respect those lines of communication. It would be real inappropriate for me to contact UAA and talk about the GHH building without Tracy being involved in that conversation. And likewise, she is very good at calling me before she talks to the school district about my project on mirrors. We respect each other. Now, yes, there is a time where the mechanical engineer and the mechanical contractor need to talk to each other because they talk the same language. I need to be in the room to understand what's going on or brought up to date, as well as the school district project manager and the general contractor. These people need to know what's going on if you're going to talk to the mechanical or electrical designer or contractor, correct? Now, Tracy may call me up and say, hey, I need to talk to the mechanical contractor about it. And, fine. I'm not going to understand the conversation. I don't understand that much about heat unit ventilators. Have the conversation, record the conversation, send me a copy of that transcript of what went on, decisions made, items discussed, and things made, decisions made. I'll get caught up on it. I don't need to be in the middle of that conversation. So, with permission, there's some rules that we bend a little bit. But regardless, your job is to make the lead look good, whoever the lead may be. Know the scope. Well, wrong scope. Know the scope. The time, the resources are what is required to get the project complete on time, and the quality of the materials to be selected. Remember, there's time, quality, and cost. The client can control 2 of those 3, but not all 3. They have to give up at least one of those in order for you to have the flexibility that you need. So it's important to know what the scope is, and if there's questions about it, get that information that you need early. Different design phases, and these are kind of AIA, American Institute of Architects standards, and they don't vary too much across different disciplines. That we have a concept design that's at 15%, and that may include just the floor plan. That's maybe all you get at that phase. Schematic design is 35%. Now we're starting to look at this thing a little bit more three-dimensionally. We're starting to look at, architecturally, we're looking at the floor plans, the elevations, the building sections, and some of the major materials that are going to go into the building. We've now placed the building on the site, and we're starting to think about the structural systems, mechanical systems, and electrical systems. But we're really talking pretty gross items at this point yet. We're looking at, we've got an approximate idea of the size of the mechanical distribution fan. Not really worried about ductwork too much at this point. Electrical, where we're going to put the panels. I don't care how we're going to get the panel wired. That's, wires are flexible. I'll worry about that later. I'm looking at the big rocks right now, as one guy said. Design development, 65%. My design is pretty well locked down. I've designed the building, and my design is complete. Your structural system is pretty well hammered out. Your mechanical system, now you know the size of the ducts and the fan units, and you're getting into that level that your design is pretty complete at the end of that design. Now your final construction documents, that's where you're kind of building the instructions to the contractor of how you want that thing built to be a successful project. So that's how to get it erected more than design. You'll be polishing up some things. Yeah, a door may move, the wall may move, but we're not talking any redesign at this point. We're not going to change the system at this point from an air-heated system to a baseboard heated system. That decision should have been made earlier, and we're past that point now. So there'll be a pre-final that's about a 95% complete, 90 to 95, that the owner gets one last chance to take a look at it and approve it and say, everything is great except, and then there's the except, you know, I want a little change. You've specified a train unit, and boy, they are in love with a carrier unit. Yeah, they didn't bring that up to you at DD, but you may have to find the equivalent, make a quick swap, or maybe a pump type, or you know. Hopefully that isn't coming around too often. I've had it where, oh, we don't like that lock set. We don't want a slag lock set. We want a best lock set. So I go through and I, you know, find the equivalents and trace them through. It's kind of little stuff at that point. You're just tuning them up for your construction documents. Those are your bidding documents, your procurement documents come out of your construction documents. Next phase is bidding and permitting, or procurement and permitting. That is where that set of documents is going to be offered out to the contractor for pricing. Whether it's contractor or contractors, that varies quite a bit. And your permits are going to be obtained through your authority having jurisdiction, whether it's the state fire marshal or the municipality of Anchorage or whomever. The Corps of Engineers is in that list. Construction administration is submittals, RFIs, DCVRs, field work orders, etc. Change orders, site observations. You are observing on site. You are not inspecting. You are observing. Applications for payments are reviewed. Substantial completion inspections are made. This is the first time you inspect that you are now in control of it and dictating means and methods. Does that project meet the construction documents, and is it ready for the owner's use as anticipated? There's a code violation. It cannot be substantially complete. That's one of my criteria. If there's no base on the wall because the base is late coming in, they can still occupy the space. At least they can be moving in and stuff. So yeah, that's substantially complete. I can give them that. You know, but there should be glass in the window at that time, because that's a key factor to keeping the elements out. And then there's your final closeout, and that's your O&M manuals and your record drawings. Contractors do as-built. You're doing record drawings. There's a legal thing that makes the difference. We expect you to seek clarifications in the scope if needed. If the scope is ambiguous, that ambiguity needs to be resolved as early as possible through the lead, whether it's the architect or the engineer or whomever is the lead on that. I expect you to select the right products. For example, I'm an architect. I know waterproofing systems. I know carpeting and I know paint. Don't know much about HRV units. I expect and rely on my mechanical consultant to make recommendations that are appropriate for my heating system and my ventilation system, that are both cost efficient and meet the needs for that particular project. I respect your job, you respect my job, we work together, everything works wonderfully. We expect you to meet the deadlines, honor the timelines that are set up front. Quite often, we will work with the engineers up front to establish the deadlines. I'm writing a proposal, and I'll put up a number of bullet point deadlines that I think we can meet. And I will share that with the engineering team and say, do these look appropriate for you? Can you meet these deadlines? Yes. Okay, I got buy-in. Put that into the proposal. It works its way into the contract quite often. And sometimes that is part of the agreement, that I will deliver schematics at this date, design development by this date, and construction documents by this date. You know, they're right in the contract. So speak up early if there's a problem meeting any deadline. That is critical. I don't want to know about it 2 days before it's due or 2 hours before it's due. I want to know about it 2 weeks before it's due. But now I can go back to the client and say, we're not where we want to be. I can give you a better product, a more thorough product, a more coordinated product, if I can have one more week. You know how often I've heard no from a client on that? Not very. Once in a while, we got to negotiate something because, you know, you're really jacking up my side now and getting the project out. I got to have something. Okay, how can we work together so I can deliver a product behind it that I like and give you the information you need, etc. So sometimes there's negotiations back and forth, but I got to know early in order to make that decision. And that decision that one entity makes ripples all the way through the team. That, you know, I'm going to pick on the mechanical because this is Ashrae and I'm talking primarily mechanical. If the mechanical is late, that affects the electrical, which may affect the structural in getting his deadlines done. Because he's got multiple deadlines jacking up behind him, right? You know, when you get off of this one, there's another one sitting right there. Civil engineers the same way. That, you know, gee, maybe you don't have this piping layout or you got to move a pipe layout coming into the site. Well, that affects civil. And, oh, there's a light pole in the way, so that'll go back to the electrical. And I mean, you know, you can see how things bloom real fast with a small change. So the earlier that's done, the more chance we've got to address that. Now, juggling multiple projects takes additional skills. You keep a to-do list. You know, a small to-do list you can keep in your head of 3 items. But when that thing starts stacking up and those details start lingering over you, you got to make a list. And you got to prioritize your list. And sometimes you got to flow chart your list. Before I can make this decision, I got to make this decision. And I can't make that decision until I get this information from that entity. So you got to kind of flow chart some of this stuff sometimes. And set your priority list. What's due first, what's due second, what can slide with communication and what cannot, and work your way through this thing. Now, that being said, don't get caught in a pick it up and put it down scenario where, you know, you pick it up and, you know, change a line and then set it down, go back to the next project any more than you absolutely have to. Save those pieces and parts so you can deal with them in chunks. More efficient on your time. Now, there's going to be times where something happens, that, you know, especially near a completion deadline or during construction, that people need to have information now. You know, if they don't have information now on a construction site, it can hold up people and dollars. Sometimes you got to, you know, push that aside, handle this 15-minute entity. Get that out the door to keep things moving and get back to where you were. That's the nature of construction. But the least you do that, the more you can set aside a block that I'm going to work on this today and on this tomorrow morning and on this tomorrow afternoon, you can work yourself much, much more efficiently. Schedule larger blocks to be more, for each project to be more efficient. Understand that immediate problems do need immediate attention, and prioritize your work to meet all deadlines. Check your work. And it bothers me a lot in my own office where here's a set of drawings for you to review. They really like my red pen when it comes out because I give them a lot of feedback. I look at the drawings very, very carefully. I can tell if they've been reviewed beforehand. And I will ask some people up front, have you reviewed these documents first? No, I haven't had time yet. Bring them back to me in a couple days. I have busy things to do too. But where I'm coming from on this is, first, I want you to check your work. And in reality, I want you to check it not only on the screen, but I want you to look at a hard copy. Because on a hard copy, you can see things that don't print right. or that the font is a different size here than it is over here. You can't see that in the screen. Look at a hard copy periodically. And when you're done looking at it, then you transfer it over to the project manager, to Tracy. And she's going to go over it. And she's going to redline it and give it back to you. You're going to pick up her red lines, understanding the red lines, give it back to Tracy, and Tracy will send it to me if I'm the lead. Now what happens at my side is not only do I look at it, but I'm going to give it to another architect that's not on the team in my office. He's going to look at it as a fresh set of eyes. He's never seen the project before and knows very little of it. Not part of the production team. And they look at it. Because sometimes I can't see the forest through the trees. I know what it's supposed to say. This person doesn't have that blinder on, so to speak, and can look at things more objectively and say, this doesn't make sense to me. Clarify. Good comment. But at that point, before it's gone to the client, it's gone through the designer, the project engineer, the project architect, and the QC person. That's about as much as I can put on a project to make sure it's right when it goes out the door. Now, we get plenty of opportunities to look stupid with things that we do and draw. The more of these that we can take out, the more credible we are. If an item is incomplete on a red line that you haven't picked up or don't understand, fine. Put a mark right there on the drawings, put a cloud around it that says, I'm still working out this item. When you give it to Tracy, Tracy knows you're still working on that and that it's incomplete. She doesn't look at it and say, well, this is a piece of junk. What the hell's going on? She knows, oh, he's still working on that. We'll get caught up. And even sometimes that'll get to me. Oh, they're still working on that. They know that. They'll get caught up. But now I understand what's going on too. And that's adding a lot of credibility to you as a designer. So there's multiple things that are happening, but it starts with you check your work. You are the beginning of quality assurance. Everybody else should be quality control. Own your work. Own your mistakes. I've had consultants pay to make repairs on a building that wasn't designed correctly. That's pretty admirable. Those engineers have a lot of my respect. They reached into their pocket and said, you know, we did not design this right, for whatever reason it was, and I'm not going to get into that now. We'll cover that. The owner paid for a proper design. We didn't deliver that. We'll take care of it, whether it's through their insurance or their pocket or however they want to deal with it. Very much appreciated, very much respected by us and the client. I also worked with another guy in our office at the time that he expected more from others than he expected from himself. He would make excuses that, well, I didn't get to that yet. But if you didn't get to that, I mean, there was hell to pay. That's a double standard that doesn't work with me. You got to hold yourself up to that same standard. Own your mistakes. Yep, I made a mistake. Now, what can I do to fix it? Defining success includes meeting the minimum standards. Your code books are minimum standards. And I really want to emphasize minimum standards. This is basically the bottom line. You're allowed to over-design. There's a danger in over-designing. It costs more money. It may gold plate a project that doesn't need it. but you gotta meet these standards, these codes. And there's also industry standards that you gotta be designing toward too. For instance, your ANSI 90.1. That's also in that. Your job is to protect the health, safety, and welfare of the owner. And also to use your best judgment. I will not be able to tell if your unit ventilator is under design. You've got a unit ventilator, it goes a continuous path to a grill outlet. That outlet is coordinated with my reflective ceiling plans. That's as much as I can understand of that. If that unit is undersized, I'm not going to know that. Sometimes I can tell if it's oversized, not too often. I had one structural engineer that gave me a 2-story building. He's got an 8-inch tube steel brace that goes diagonal through this. I said, good Lord, you need all that? Well, not really. I like them big. Well, I like them to fit in the wall. We got to do something together, so we got to fit in the wall. That was a quote. I like them big. Yeah, that don't work for me. Meet the client's expectations. Design to the owner's needs, not to your ego. I can't emphasize that one enough. And yeah, you laugh. I've seen it done. Don't deliver a Cadillac when they're expecting a Chevy. And don't deliver the Chevy when they're expecting the Cadillac. The opposite. Now, redundant systems are very important out in the bush. You know, you got to have 2 boilers, a primary and a secondary. The secondary needs to be big enough to keep the building from freezing if the heat goes down, if the primary goes down. There's not, like I said, there's not a Home Depot there that they can get parts from or industrial hardware. That building has to keep going. In Anchorage, on your house, do you need a redundant system? No. You got a fireplace. You'll keep the place from freezing. Or, you know, do what you got to do. We got much more reliable utilities here. You've got access to parts. You're not going to put in the same redundancy in Anchorage that you need out in the bush. Idea stole from Craig Ferdine, with my apologies to Boris Johnson. But what's important to the client? It might be the first cost that's important to them, especially if they plan on flipping that building. If they're going to build it and sell it within 7 years, they're really not interested in the operating costs. They're interested in the first cost. So we've got to know that and design that proportionally. It may be operational costs are the primary importance. You know, school districts is running, we used to design buildings for 50 years. We have schools in this district that are 60, 70 years old and still in operation. They're very interested in operating costs and keeping those down. And it may be the performance that is important. Are the utility rates crazy high? And what's the payback for whatever return on investment item that you're looking for? I had a client that said, you know, you're giving me an R40 roof. What's my return on investment if I take it to R60? I can tell you right now without getting a pencil out, there is no return on investment that will make that work. That extra insulation from 40 to 60 will not pencil out to your energy costs. You're not going to get enough to pay for it. Sometimes you got to know this information and be able to respond to that. Is it easy to maintain? Especially out in the bush, maintenance is a big issue. Reliability and redundancy, we talked about that a little bit. But do you need a highly skilled labor in order to do that maintenance? Do you have highly skilled labor? What's the highly skilled labor available in Quagillinguck? You know, they're highly skilled laborers. I got a hammer. I know which end to hold. It may be sustainability, that they are going for some kind of sustainable program, for instance, LEED or high performance building or whatever it is. That may be their important factor. Now, there may not be one important factor, there may be many important factors. Another thing you got to be worried about here is, especially when working with a committee, is getting different directions. And that's a tough one. There's got to be an appointed leader. And quite often, especially school district projects, school district makes it very clear, the project manager is your leader. Don't take directions from the principals, don't take directions from maintenance, don't take directions from the teachers, don't take directions from the parents. The project manager will make all those decisions. That's their job. They take all that information, all that noise that's being made, brings it to the project manager, and that project manager brings it to the design team. So sometimes you got to go out there and you got to find compromise or consensus. Not always easy to do, but you know, you're a trained professional and you can make those decisions. Some companies are like an octopus with 8 different arms, 8 different entities giving you those directions. That's where you need that one entity that filters all that down and gives you that direction. Some clients are like little lost children that they don't know how to run a construction project. They really don't understand that. They got a building, they've got a vision, but they don't know how to get to that end point. I'm working on one right now. I'm working with the chief financial officer on a 6-story building downtown. They don't know construction. Do we need to hire a project manager to represent us? Let me do that, I'll save you money. I know how to do that. We are skilled designers. Architects have been trained in some of this stuff over the years, both academically in school and in practice. I can do that same work without getting a project engineer or owner's representative involved. That's going to cost you more money. It's going to do the same thing that I'm going to do for you. So it's going to be my job to guide them through the design process and through the construction process. They're lost children. They are looking to me for experience and guidance. And I feel very comfortable bringing that to them. There's a slide you've seen before, or the title you've seen before, select the right products. Again, project needs to be appropriate to the project. Make recommendations appropriate to the project. I had one mechanical design firm that said, we want you to design buildings with 5 feet of space between the bottom of the joist and the top of the ceiling for us to run mechanical systems through. Swear to God. Who's going to pay for that? That's a lot of volume. Have you ever seen 5 feet clear in anything but maybe a hospital? Maybe a hospital? Quite often a hospital may even have an intermediate floor in there, but wouldn't that be nice? That would be great. Nice try, he's gonna get it. We're gonna crunch you down to every ounce of space we've got, and you're gonna still have to crush a duck somewhere to make everything work. But I mean, we came out of that meeting going, what the heck are they thinking about? Are they in reality? I also had an engineer call me up. We were designing a little cabin. They needed 24 inches wide for the electrical panel. Why are you putting in a 150 amp panel into this cabin that's got 4 rooms in it? You need a 6-breaker panel. They're this wide. I know they will fit between 2 studs. That engineer would, he went to his book, and his book says a panel is this big, but he didn't use this thing up here that says this is appropriate. That frustrated me, As an architect, I can tell I don't need a 150 amp panel on the 6-room cabin. I also know that the plumbing case does not require the urinal, excuse me, the urinal does not require a plumbing chase. I don't need a big back-to-back chase. You gotta be quiet. How big of a chase do I need to put in a back-to-back water closet? To put in a back-to-back carrier, I know this one, I've been burning this time. 22 inches. They're big. I gotta have that much space. If it's single-sided, I cut that down tremendously. I'm down to 18 inches. Nobody does compact carriers. But, Tracy, and I say this sincerely, borrow a carrier sometime from a job site for a week. Go down and put it in your office and say, people, make sure this fits in your walls. Because people don't understand what it takes to put a carrier in. And you show it to them and they go, gotcha. Now I understand. Now, what happens when the client asks you to do something against your best judgment? Does it happen? It has? What do you do? Excuse me?
It's like safety.
It might be. It might be. That's the next question. Is it against code? If it's against code, nope. Can't do that. Anchorage School District one time said, we want toilet paper spindles that do not free spool. Because what happens to the kids, just like the cat, they free spool it, put it in the toilet, flush it, and they plug it up. ADA says the toilet paper spool must free spool. Okay, code says this, client says this. What do? I'm stuck in the middle. Made them a deal. I won't put any spindle in it. They can put in whatever they want after I leave. So you got to protect yourself along the way is where I'm coming from. Selecting the right product for the right project. Defining success involves solving the problem. Now, I'm not unreasonable. I'm not expecting perfection. Documents are made by people. People make mistakes. I do expect good quality control along the way to eliminate as many problems as we can. As I said before, we get plenty of opportunities to look stupid. The more we take out, the better we are. But I am expecting a complete and working system at the end. That's what I have hired you as a consultant to provide me. That's a skill I do not have. So be careful with new and innovative products. I like time-tested systems. I love EPDM roofing. It's been up here for 40, 50 years. It's flexible. It performs well in cold weather. I like this product. It's got a proven history up here. I do not like APP roofing that's modified with plasticizers. They love it in the deep south. They don't have freezing temperatures. I use that product up here and I drop a wrench on it and it breaks. Why do I want that up here? I don't. I wouldn't put it on my dog's house. So I'm going to use time-tested materials. Wow, there's this new whiz-bang thing that is coming up that we would like to try. Fine, try it on some other architect's job, not mine. I want mine to be successful 20 years after I walk away. I want the client to say, dang, Rim did a good job with CRW. You'll practice on somebody else on that. Clients also want a successful system that they can maintain. And trying out that new whiz-bang thing maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. TPO roofing is not all that old in the industry, but it is an old product. We've been putting TPO in our cars for years. Your dashboards are all TPO. A lot of your trims are TPO. And they work relatively well. till you go to somewhere like Fairbanks, and all the trims have fallen off the cars. Because it gets cold. Does it get cold in Fairbanks? It gets brutal cold. And the adhesives fail, and the cars shrink a little bit, and with, because they're metal shrinks, trims fall off. And then when they first came out with TPO roofing, they're playing around with the formulas. Well, if they're playing around with the formulas, they obviously don't have it dialed in right yet. I'm going back to my EPDM. It's successful. I have comfort in that. Now, TPO has changed quite a bit over the years. I've done a few TPO roofs, but I use that selection judiciously. Finding success also, where am I? Either slide ahead or slide behind. There we are. Defining mistake involves adjust to change. Is there change in the construction process? During the construction process, are there changes that get made? Yeah. Every time the phone rings, right? And twice as many times in between. Change happens. It's inevitable. It's part of the design process. It's a natural progression of the design process. You need to act proactively to incorporate that design change as quickly as possible, because your change affects the next person, affects the next person, which affects the next decision. So the sooner those get incorporated, the better it is to everybody. It would be nice if things didn't change, but I haven't worked on a project that didn't. Success means meeting the budget. Budgets, plural. For the construction budget, don't over-design. You know what gilding is? You ever hear of gilding? What's gilding? Breaking it. Well, that's what's come to be. Gilding from old architecture was actually taking gold plating and putting it on elements. That's gilding. So don't gold plate your project. Yes, you have to have some redundancy because you're building in the bush. That doesn't mean one boiler does all the work and the second boiler sits standby and does nothing until the first one breaks down. There's a reasonable compromise in the middle. You also have to be respectful of your office budgets. Do you ask your project lead what your budget for time is on such assignment? If not, why not? I will bet you, if you ask Tracy what your budget will be, she will openly share that with you. She may not bring it to your attention until you ask, but you will impress her if you ask. She will know that. Ask for regular project updates, process updates. Are we on track? As an EIT, you don't know that you're in trouble yet. As early as Tracy knows you're in trouble. As early as Jesse knows you're in trouble. Or Craig. Their years of experience has tell them how to watch for a project early enough to determine this thing's in trouble. I need to load it up. I need to get some more people in here. You need to be financially responsible as a designer as well, to make sure that you don't overrun your budget. If she says you've got 40 hours, you don't spend 60. Now, if you think, jeepers, she's giving me 40, I don't think I can do it in 40. You got to go back and talk to Tracy and find out a plan to do it in 40. Because she's made a promise to the brass upstairs, to the architect, and to the client that she's going to do this design for X many dollars. If she goes over, there's no going back to the architect. There's no going back to the client. The brass ain't going to be happy. There's going to be questions asked. Hopefully heads won't roll, but there will be questions asked. So you got to come up with a game plan. Okay, in order to do it in 40, this is how we're going to put together the game plan to make it work. The earlier you work with your project manager on that, the more credibility you're going to have and the more success you're going to have in the project. Now, this is the last part here, is like tidbits or takeaways. This is things to do as an employee to be successful. And it's as applicable for EIT as it is for a project manager. One is be a reliable employee. It's not real hard. Show up for work. Be professional. Participate in office activities. Be positive. Make recommendations for office improvements. Especially critical to EITs because they bring in a lot of technical knowledge that us old farts don't know. You know, I've done this way for 40 years, and I don't get experience to that new technology that the younger people coming into the firm do. I'm expecting them to say, are you aware of this new rendering program that's out? Look at what I can do. Wow, that is cool. Am I going to learn it? Not in my old age. I'm this far from retirement now. So, but if you bring that skill, you brought an asset to the company. Don't job hop. When I'm looking at a resume, I'm looking for stability. First of all, you're coming to me as a liability. Whether you're an intern or a project manager, the first day you walk into this company, you are a liability. You need to learn an awful lot of the way the company works to become an asset, right? Your first day, were you given a job and said, here, go? There's a lot of ramp up that has to happen. And, so you need to work your way from a liability to an asset. And I'll talk about that in a little bit, and there's a number of ways to do that, but that's part of your goal. Solicit feedback. Feedback is a gift. Don't always like the gift that's handed to you, but it's a gift. What are you asked? What am I doing right? What am I doing wrong? Where do I need to learn? Where do I need to grow? What do I have to do differently? Very important questions. Where do you want me to grow? Would that impress you if they came into your office and asked you that? Yeah. It's okay to ask questions. This is a hard one for a lot of people. Swallow your pride. Design is a team process. It is okay to ask questions. We all want you to succeed. If you fail, Tracy fails. If Tracy fails, I fail. It's a domino effect. Everybody wants you to succeed. I would much rather answer a silly question than to fix a stupid mistake. One of my mantras. I will always answer your question with some caveats. Don't come into my office every 10 minutes with questions. Save them up. Come in once in the morning and once in the afternoon with your list. That's much better. I've got work I got to do too. And then we can sit down and we can concentrate. I can give you whatever time you need and we can go through this. Questions are not a sign of weakness. When properly presented, they show strength and character and it will help you develop self-confidence. And I want to say something here. Make sure I get back to homework. If I don't, I think it's in my presentation. I just want to make sure.
Or remind you.
Find mentors. Now, mentors. S, big, bold, underlined. Couldn't quite, well, I bet you I could in this, figure out how to make it blank in the PowerPoint. Couldn't do it on your paper. Mentors, plural. Different people have different skills. Find the one that's appropriate for what you need to learn. Learn from all those people. Find the technical person to ask the technical question to. Ask questions to your specifier on why what such and such was done. If you want to learn about project management, you find the project manager that you can work with. If you want to learn more about some of the accounting things, talk to your accountant. If you want to, find the right person for the right question. If that person is strong in plumbing and weak in air, you go to that person for the plumbing, and this one for HVAC, and that one for refrigeration. Find the right person for the right skill to get the information that you need. And do read the specs. You're going to understand every line that's in there? Maybe not. But the information that's in the specification is as important as the information in the drawings. They work together to create the whole story. One is as legally as enforceable as the other, and you will learn what is in the specification, what is in the drawings, how they work together, and what's not in the specification and must be in the drawings, and what's in the drawings and doesn't need to be in the specification. So is it too early to learn specification skills? No, not too early. Time management. Some of my rules. First 90% of the work takes the first 90% of the time. The last 10% of the work takes the other 90% of the time. How do you keep out of that? There's also one that I use for home improvement. And this one works really well. Estimate how much time it's going to take you to do the job, divide it by 2, and move to the next higher unit. So if you think it's going to take you 2 days, divide it by 2, get 1, move to the next higher unit, week. Your 2-day project becomes 1 week because the part didn't fit, you need a different tool, whatever it is, something didn't work right, then I've had it where, all I got to do is change out the garbage disposer. How long can that take? Well, they moved the fitting, so the tailpiece that I had doesn't fit anymore. And this is Sunday night, so I can't get a new tailpiece because the hardware store's closed. My 2-hour project becomes a full day. Where I'm coming from is time management needs to be kind of proactive. You need to kind of work in your way, a way to manage your time so you don't get into that back-end crunch. And that's where I said that Tracy can tell you are in trouble long before you can. My experience with intern architects and EITs is no problem. I got plenty of time. Oh my God, I'm in trouble. It's not anything personal. It's called experience. You will learn it too in due time. And, that's where keeping in touch with your project manager. Tracy can tell you up front, or whoever your project manager is, she's here, so she's target. Yeah. They can tell you up front if you're in trouble or things are going good. Don't fret it. I don't do all-nighters. Oh, yeah. Yeah, they're the all-nighters. You get into that. Tidbits and takeaways. This is my homework slide I was remembering. Do your homework first. Don't be lazy. Bring a proposed solution to me, to Tracy, whoever. I don't, I want to talk to you about this item. I don't know if I got it right, but I've stuck my nose in the code. This is what it says. I think this is what it means. This is how I'm reacting to it. Am I on task? She's impressed. You've done your homework. She will give you time to analyze that. If you walk in there and say, how big is the back-to-back space for a water closet? How big of a shaft do I need? I would hope she says, go look it up and come back to me with an answer. We'll discuss it then. You done it?
Ask him.
Ask him. He's done it to you?
That would definitely happen.
I do the same thing to my architects.
Yeah.
The answer's in the code book. The key word you need is this. I'll give you that much, so you don't spin your wheels. Go to the code book and look under pedestrian walkways. The answer's there. But if you haven't done your homework, I'm not going to just hand you the answer. I want you to do your homework. It's called learning. And you learn an awful lot by sticking your nose in code books and product manuals and researching online. We were just working on a project recently here where we've got a draftsman in Manila. And we're talking about house wrap. The heck is house wrap? They work with concrete with house wrap. Did some research and couldn't quite get the answer, so he called up our office and said, what is this? This is what I researched, this is what I'm finding. Oh, okay, now look up this and look at this, Here's a video on how this works in my support. But he did his homework first, and that impressed us. This guy's been in the office in our company now for 6 weeks. Wow, he impressed me in 6 weeks already because he did some homework up front. So, yeah, make it set the way and ask to come back with it if you're finding and talk about it. Fail. That's your first attempt in learning. Yes, you will fail. Not necessarily bad if you learn something from it. How did you learn most of your design stuff? Bring it up.
What I remembered?
By the seat of your pants and getting chewed out by a contractor that said, well, you had some experience in the field prior to that, the usual, but I've had contractors say, you can't build that. We don't have a saw that can cut that. I can draw a bolt that you can't build. It comes down and forks it over and it's got two nuts on it. You've seen that picture, all those cartoons. Yeah, I can draw bricks on the ceiling. I don't know how to make it stay up there, but I can draw it. Just because I can draw it doesn't mean you can build it, though. I don't care how good the contractor is. So, yeah, you're gonna make some mistakes. So how are you going to combat those failures? Meet with vendors. One, they're free. Two, they'll frequently feed you. Learn from them. Talk to your vendor when they come into the office or reach out to them. I'm designing such and such and I don't understand how this works. Educate me. What are the pros? What are the cons? Is this the best product for me to use? Should I use, your product A or product B? Which one is better for my application and why? The why is the most important thing. That you will remember for the next one. But check them. Have them check your drawings and specifications. Here again, how much does that cost you? Nothing. I've been designing roofs for 35 years. I still take my specifications and drawings and send them off to Carlisle and Firestone and have them review it. And they come back with me with, yep, accept. Change this detail, change this sentence in your spec. Now, do I know it all? No. Am I too proud to learn? No. Do I appreciate their comment? Absolutely. That probably saved me a change order out in the field, just because I gave it to them ahead of time and let them take a look at it. So have them look at your drawings and your specs. Go out in the field. Attend those site visits that the office puts up. Learn from others' mistakes and how they were resolved. That's one for the designer that you can talk to your prime designer about. Learn from their creative solutions. Why did you do that? That's interesting. Things always look different three-dimensionally than they did on paper. And you can learn so much out in the field. My I was up in Alaska for about 4 months, and I got sent full-time out on the field on a school project. Full-time inspection is what we were hired for. I learned so much that I could not learn in a book. I could see how a door frame got put into a wall. I could see how come that duct doesn't fit under that beam and over that header. I learned so much by being in the field. That was incredible information. Now, there's something I call field smart and book stupid, or the other way around. Book smart and field stupid. That's what it meant. Book smart, field stupid. I've had registered architects design things that cannot be built. There's no physical way it can be built because they saw something in a book, they learned something in the book, but they didn't know how to apply it properly. So, just because you've got the stamp doesn't mean you got the know-it-all. Understand why decisions were made. Ask people on these field visits. Ask the designer, and more importantly, ask the contractor that installed it. Ask them what went right and what went wrong, and what did you do to fix it. Very good questions. You cannot learn too much. What went wrong and why is huge learning. Never put in writing what you don't want to see in court. They will take your email, blow it up full size, project it on the wall for a whole courtroom to see. Don't write an email when you're mad. Well, write it, but don't send it. Write it and delete it. Never send an email mad. There's a person I worked with that had a 72-hour rule. If you had a grievance, you had to bring it up within 72 hours or let it go. That was a good rule to go by. Have others proof your correspondences. All your correspondences, especially if you're mad. Because that's where I've written emails and I'll take it to sometimes two people in the office and say, proof this. Make sure there's no teeth in this thing, because I'm upset. I got to respond in a timely fashion, but I need to be professional. I don't want to be curt. So I will have them check it for not only apostrophes and commas and the capitalizations and punctuations and all that garbage, but I want them to look at it for, does it read well? Is it professional? Is it clear? Are there dragons in this thing that I got to get rid of because, it's showing its teeth? And I've learned how to get most of those out before they go to there, but every correspondence I send out, I send by my administrator for grammar check. And it's always on something. I'm an architect. English is not my specialty. You're an engineer, it's not yours too. I can tell that just by your profession. This is a great one. Designers make recommendations, owners make decisions. This will keep you out of court. Offer option A, option B, option C. Here's the pros, here's the cons to each one of them. I recommend C and why. Owner, where would you like me to go? It's real hard for them to sue me when they've made the decision. I've given them lots of information. I've even made a recommendation. Generally, I will give them a recommendation. Sometimes I don't care. Sometimes they're all bad. And I can tell them that. But it's important that they make the decision. Very important. So, designers make recommendations, owners make decisions.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
I get asked this question a lot, and one of the reasons I think I get asked it a lot is because they ask why we aren't allowed to tell them we accept something, or, you know, we say no exceptions, or we make recommendations, we don't, you know, we don't approve necessarily. And one of the reasons for that is we don't control the checkbook and the contractors don't work for us, is one of the things. We work for the owner, the contractor works for the owner, is how I've explained it in the past, and I kind of want to get your opinion on that.
Well, it's an interesting thing. If you look at the American Institute of Architects, in the contracts they write, they actually approve shop drawings. Your professional liability carrier says do not approve them. You take no exceptions to them. If you approve them, you're accepting liability. If you take no exceptions, it's easier for them to keep the liability over at the contractor where it belongs. That's one part. Now, as far as some of your decision making, there again, if you make a decision and it is the wrong decision, now you are liable for that decision. If you give them option A, B, and C, pros and cons, and they make a decision, they own that decision at that point. You don't own it. So that's why I said it's going to be a lot harder for them to sue me if they made that decision.
And giving direction to the contractor, where I was.
Giving direction to the contractor is real bad.
Yeah.
The contractor is responsible for the means and methods. Any way they get to that end result is theirs to own, as long as the end result meets your design intent and the construction documents. That, you know, if they want to put up the joist with a crane or a forklift or a whole bunch of people lifting on it, that's his means and methods. I don't care how he gets the joist in place, as long as the joist gets in place. As long as the pump is running the right direction, I don't care how the pump gets put in, as long as the end result will perform as noted. Did that answer your question?
I think it does, yeah, I just wanted to kind of, I think that is a confusion with a lot of younger engineers, is that we literally can't give them direction on how to do the work.
No,
Give them,
you cannot give them direction at all.
so I just wanted to clarify that.
That's a very important part of
Yeah.
construction law, is you do not give the contractor direction. Communicate, communicate, communicate. Keep the team leader informed of the progress and your decisions made. Log your communications in a notebook. I can't tell you how many of these I've gone through in my professional career. The phone rings, I pick up my notebook and my ink pen, and I start writing. On such and such day, Tracy and I discussed such and such subject. Tracy left me a phone call at this time, on this day, here's her phone number, call her back, this is what we discussed. Some people would love for me to have one of these for every job so we can archive it at the job. I probably run 6 jobs a day easy on the book side. I don't have that many notebooks laying around. Sorry guys, you get the one. But I keep it, and I go back to it, and find, golly, you know, such and such day we talked about this, and this is what we discussed. I remember that now. Or here's the heat loss calculations I got for this roof assembly, or the R value assembly, and the weights. I've got that in here. I've got all sorts of stuff in here. But this is like my dear diary. And I go back to this thing, and it saves my bacon many a time. Plus, the action of writing something down helps you remember things. That is a proven fact. So if I take notes at a meeting, I will remember that meeting in much, much more detail than if I just sit there and talk. Here's a shameless plug. I'm a member of the Construction Specifications Institute Cook Inlet chapter. CSI, Construction Specifications, not the crime scene dudes, puts together a program called the CDT, Construction Documents Technologist. I really encourage people that are working in vertical construction to take this course. It teaches you the responsibilities and relationships between drawings and owners and contractors and designers. what their role is, how they work with each other, why one, how one may take precedence over the other, what the responsibilities are between these parties. Architects get some of this in school because we're trained for vertical construction. Engineers don't get this. You know, they don't know if you're going to go into buildings or trucks or Mattel toys. You know, they're just teaching you mechanical engineering concepts. This will teach you a lot in vertical construction. I would strongly recommend find out. Matter of fact, sign up is open now. Give you the website here. It's www.csinet.com. You can sign up now for the test. The test is offered for a month long in April, I believe it is. And it's a computerized test that you take where do they take the professional exams? Pro something, I forgot the company name. No,
It was way too long ago for me to be able to answer that
yeah.
question.
Anyway, it's a computerized multiple test, 100 questions. But in preparation for this, you will understand contract law, contract relationships in a way that will be beneficial throughout your career. Go get registered. Makes mommy and daddy proud for that money that they shelled out for you for your education. Plus, it shows that you have commitment to your craft. You demonstrated a competency level, and it's quite very frequently required for promotions. And what I do want to also mention is once you get registered, don't moonlight. As a non-registered professional, you don't have the same liability that a registered professional has. When you got registered, you became legally liable. Do you carry personal PLI insurance on the side? You moonlight? Nope. That PLI insurance is more than I want to spend. Forget it. I don't want any part of that. I'm covered by the company's insurance policy for anything I do on the company. I don't moonlight, period. So I share that with you. The liability is just too high. If something goes wrong and you are a registered registered entity, they can go after your assets. Your house, your car, take the dog if they want, I don't know. Be involved in your community. Now that's a couple of ways. Professionally, be involved through the United Way, community cleanups, serving on boards and commissions, STEM, Ashrae, you involved in Ashrae? This is an opportunity to network as well. You are out being an ambassador to the company. Personally, be involved in your religious organization, or in scouting, or Big Brothers, Big Sisters, coaching sports. Be out there in the community. It's good for you to get away from your job once in a while too. Go clear your head. Marketing. Whose job is it to do marketing in the office?
Everybody.
Absolutely. His job, your job, your job, her job. You are all an ambassador to the company. Marketing for the company first. Every employee is a representative of the firm. Learn the 1-minute elevator speech for your firm. If somebody asks you, CRW, what do you do? You should be able to give them something in 1 minute while you're riding the elevator between floors. To at least pique their curiosity enough to find out more. And to say, these people are something. I got to learn about this. Go find work when you're out networking, when you're out there coaching with the scouts or the sports team. I went to a Bohne lunch, sat next to a guy, walked out with a client. You never know when that opportunity is going to be there. Use your contacts to find work. I must say it is much, much easier to keep a client than to find a client. Keeping clients, by keeping them happy, is cheap. Finding a new client is tough, tough work. Sometimes you got to pry them from somebody else that they are already working with and are happy with. And that is even tougher. Market yourself second. What do I mean by that? Don't burn any bridges. This is a big state, but it's a small town. Everybody knows everybody. And if you burn a bridge, it'll come back to haunt you sooner or later. People talk, so keep your contact list at all times. And as weird as it sounds, keep a current resume. You never know what's going to happen. I missed it as part of marketing. I didn't put my tie on today. I'm out of my uniform. I intended to. I was working from home. Looked at the clock. Whoops, gotta go. And I forgot the tie. Now I'm here to talk to you. Why would I wear a tie and get all dressed up? Talk to the mechanical engineers and the instructional.
And
Until they're on, they can't see me.
And electric.
I'm out representing my firm. I'm dressing for success. When I first got into this industry, I worked in an office where everybody wore dress slacks, nice shirt, and a tie. They said they didn't have a dress code. But, you know, I'm going to dress the same way. And it didn't take long, and I was being sent out to the field to meet with the clients and represent the firm. Love your job. Now, does that sound corny? It sure does in a lot of respects, but love your job. Make yourself an accomplishment goal each day. Today, I would like to finish this or these. I'd like to get these done. This is my goal for today. Now, what does it take to destroy your list? One phone call. One phone call, the list is gone. But I've got an expectation of what I would like to get done. I may not get to it. I may not get to it till tomorrow or even Wednesday or Thursday, but I've got a goal of what I would like to do. When this whole pandemic thing started and we all started working remote in our office, we would get together every day and just share a little bit. And one of the things we did real early is, what would you like to do today to consider your day a success? Just set yourself a little goal. Now, like I said, one phone call destroys it. Now, I've got to admit, there's a lot of days where I have to go to work. But there's a lot of days I get to go to work too. What's different about that? My attitude. Especially if I'm working on something I've never done before and I've got a learning opportunity ahead of me. That excites me. I did a correctional facility and I had to learn detention hardware. I do door hardware all the time, but I had to learn something new that was very, very different. And that was really exciting for me. I had to learn something new. So you got to find a way to change your attitude to make yourself happy. And if you're happy and you love your job, you'll never work a day in your life. Become an asset. Later in your career, you'll find that the company needs something, and hopefully you may have a passion for that something. Become that specialist. Remember, becoming an asset is not a one-way road. You can become an asset, and through dynamic changes in either the industry or the company or the economy or whatever, you slip down to a liability. Sometimes the company gets top-heavy, too many engineers. They don't make money off of the big engineers. They got to thin the herd a little bit, open up the doors on the bottom for the entry engineers, the EITs to come in. That asset became a liability. The liability gets removed. So what I'm saying, the more you've got a specialty that the firm needs, the higher your chances are of staying as an asset. I know an individual that this company needs a fire protection engineer. I'm going to stick my nose in there and become that fire engineer. Yeah, okay. And he became an asset to that firm, and you know, became very important person in the firm, became principal of the firm. He found a need that the company had, learned that craft, and became that asset. So learn something new every day. Another one of my mantras. And I always ask my grandkids when I pick them up from school, what did you learn new today? Learn something new every day. It's one of my goals. Make it one of yours. Questions? Now, from the previous one, I always ask a couple questions. One of which is, how do you prevent burnout from the deadline after deadline after deadline after deadline that you incur? And it's really easy to get into burnout. You can overwork yourself to death in this industry real fast, real easy if you allow yourself. But you need to make some time for you. And yes, there's a deadline, and you got to go through hell to go to that deadline. And when you're going through hell, keep going. Winston Churchill. But on the other end, reward yourself with something. Take the weekend off, go camping, go biking, go fishing, go do something to clear your head and get away from the office. Now, you know, I say this, and it's so hard to do. You know, what was your time card look like last month?
Not answering.
Yours?
Yeah, I take my weekends off.
You take your weekends off, you know. 50-hour a week is low, 60 is pretty common for me. But I do get to the point periodically that I need a break, and I'm taking the weekend off. And I'll work, you know, schedule it in such a way I gotta go play this weekend. And the nicer the weather, the more frequently the play dates come. And once in a while, I schedule an illness. On Wednesday, I'm gonna come down with fishing pox. Sorry, you know. Or I got a vision problem. I just can't see going into work today. Sometimes you just got to go clear your head out, but you got to do it responsibly. You got to do it in such a way that you're not hurting your projects and your deadlines and your budgets and whatnot. The other question was, did I blend the two together? Maybe I did. I think I did, because the other one was working the project. Then we got a question that came in about moonlighting.
Yeah,
Is that freelancing?
and Daniel answered it as yes.
I consider it the same. Yeah,
Yeah.
you're not working under the company. You are not working under the company's PLI insurance. You are not covered. You are liable singularly. And if you're registered, then you're legally liable. If you're not registered, then you just get bad advice. The courts don't hold you to the same standards. I had one more slide.
Can you pull the chat up?
Oh,
We're gonna say something about home.
I did. Do your homework before you ask your question. That's what the reminder was, and I did get to it. So thank you for
If
reminding me.
anybody does have questions, please feel free to open up your mic or put them in the chat, and please.
I went longer this time. I was getting.
Hey, it's Austin. Can you guys hear me?
Hey, Austin,
Hello?
is that you?
Yeah, can you hear me? Yeah.
We can.
Yeah, I had another question.
Almost
for
hear you.
Scott. You guys still hear me clearly, right?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. Yeah, so Scott, we're starting a mentoring program over here at CRW where we kind of pair up younger and more experienced engineers and we try and kind of learn from them. In your opinion, what would be some of like the best skills that us young engineers should try and learn from our older, more experienced counterparts, kind of like, you know, budgeting, proposal writing, stuff like that?
It's like asking what color is blue. That's a really open question. And a lot of it depends on what the individual's interests are. You really don't want to push the individual toward a position that they're not interested in. If you know, they really hate plumbing, force them to be a great plumbing designer is not in anybody's best interest. They will get frustrated and leave because they hate plumbing, where, you know, they love air systems or whatever. So it's got to be, that's where I said you got to find the right mentors, plural. I wouldn't encourage them to take a mentor. I encourage them to take many mentors and to find out the ones that are best in that particular piece. And then your mentor that you are assigning for the company kind of overwatches the whole thing to make sure that they are getting the time and attention that they need in order to grow in that particular facet. So architects have a architectural experience program, an AXP. And what kind of program does an EIT have? I don't know anymore. Is there a structured learning process that you go through and you learn X many hours in different facets of the program? There isn't? Yeah, your industry's got to get caught up.
Would not disagree.
Would not disagree. What that does, the AXP program was designed specifically to make sure that young architects get a diverse training on writing proposals, reading contracts, writing specifications, executing drawings, making field representation during construction, being active in the bidding process. So they've written up this program. And matter of fact, what I could do is I could send it over to Tracy here, and you could adapt this thing a little bit so you got an interior program that you could work off of. Because, I mean, you take out the word architect and put in the word engineer, and I think most of it will work very well. It made sure that the candidate going for testing gets a good broad background. That makes sure that they're trained in all facets of the program, because when we are tested in contracts and in construction documents, drawings, and in site design, and in mechanical systems. We are tested on various pieces, structural systems. Our test is set up in pieces that test you on these different elements. So the AXP program is designed to make sure that you get enough exposure to that, so when you take your test, you are competent in all these fields. Now, our test, I know, is different than the mechanical engineering test, because you get a long list of questions and you got to answer X many of them. And I heard one guy who says, I don't do gears. Any question started with the letter G is skipped. Fine. If gears aren't your specialty, you move to the next one. Architects don't necessarily have that same ability. That we are given the questions and you got so much time to answer this whole list. If you don't get done, so sorry you got that one wrong. So it's a little bit of a different program, but it is a structured program that makes sure that you get a diverse background to prep you for your PE.
Anybody else?
Austin, what did I say last time I didn't say this time?
I think you covered it. Yeah, it took a while. But I think you got everything. I mean, because you answered this, you kind of brought up the same questions I had asked last time as well about the whole burnout thing, stuff like that.
Oh, the other question I remember too was how do we make sure we get out in the field enough to learn these field lessons? that was another one of your questions, and that was a good question too I wanted to bring up. And that is applying yourself. Go to the project manager and say, hey, there is such and such phase on this project, or roughly in the mechanical room that I designed. I want to go out with you on the next field visit. Gee, you got a deadline. I really can't afford you to go out, tomorrow because you got this deadline coming up. Fine. Give me the name of the contractor. I'll go see if I can go out there on Saturday. They're working Saturday. I'm not. I want to go out. Force yourself a little bit. Go out there and learn. There's great information out in the field. Things look different three-dimensionally than they look on paper. Design meetings with owners. Let's discuss. Yes, absolutely. Ask to be invited to the owner meetings. During design, during construction and administration, as much as they can afford to send you out. That's something I didn't mention last time, I didn't mention this time, is I have learned to take my, I don't call her, my job captain, was an old term that we used. The person that's heading my design, not a registered architect. She was working directly underneath me. So she was in charge of the drawings. I took her to a lot of meetings and invited her to a lot of meetings, so she hears firsthand what the issues are. So that does two things. One, I don't have to come back and give her a 20-minute rundown of a 2-hour meeting, because that got skimmed down by a huge factor. Two, she knows the story behind the story behind the story. She learned an awful lot because I made sure she was at every one of those meetings. And I would ask her, when they said, is such and such coordinated, pull that up and let's talk about that. And she'd pull it up and we'd discuss it amongst the team. So she was an active member, not just a quiet mouse on the other end. So I gave her responsibility, and she stepped up, and she learned so much. In my opinion, she's ready to test. She's got it now. She's seen the bigger picture. This is the first big job that was her job to run from drawing one to construction documents. She drew most of the job, and what she didn't draw, she managed. So when there was additional help required, I required her to run that. I want you to give this, I'll help you. Take this element right here, this tangible element, pass it off to person A. Take this one to pass it off to B, and this to C, and you manage it. You stay in the driver's seat, so you know what's going on everywhere. And she distributed those pieces, and she collected them, and she coordinated it. She learned so much on that job. And that was part of our job as mentors, to provide that kind of education that you are ready for the next step. Sometimes you walk in and ask me for it, and I hand it to you. Other times, I'm going to take it, give it to you. I'm going to hand it to you, and I'm going to watch over your shoulder. I'm not going to let you fail, but I'm not going to get in your way.
Jared, you had an open mic. Do you have a question?
Yeah, I was still kind of doing the homework on that question, but I really appreciated how Scott kind of brought up how you have to but discern, if the architect or a specific engineer is leading the dance. To Scott, when it comes to, and this is more like my question is how does an electrical designer, or Jared as the designer, how do I work with an architect? And is there any items that you've in your work with electrical or any design team specifically? Is there anything that you notice that's commonly overlooked that can, if they taken that practice, it would have made the work from the architectural perspective a lot easier or a lot better? If that makes sense.
The one thing that comes to mind is some electrical designers take the attitude as I'm last. So I'm not gonna pick up the job until you've got it at the end, and then I'm gonna come through and give you lights and power and signal. And, that may work very good and efficiently for the electrical designer, but it really wreaks havoc on the architect, because I'm in charge of a reflective ceiling plan, and I'm trying to coordinate all these pieces, and it, you know, if I don't have lights, or lights are dancing around every time I get a new set of drawings, I'm trying to hit a moving target. And as much as I would love to say it, that mechanical and electrical are always well coordinated when they hit my desk, even though they come out of the same shop, it doesn't seem to happen. Somewhere, something gets stacked. And the sooner I find that stack, the more, the faster I can deal with it. I was working on a project recently, and I knew there was a tight spot. There was a duct that had to get underneath this beam. And it was a decent sized duct. It wasn't huge, but it was decent sized. And I looked at the ceiling height, and I looked at the beam, and I looked at the duct, and I looked at the light fixture, and I said, ain't gonna work. I got 10 pounds of beams in a 5-pound bag. And, you know, we're all working in Revit. And how come nobody finds this until I sit there and run, you know, pencil numbers on the side of the sheet on a dining room table on a Saturday, that something like that happens. But what we had to do is, okay, get everybody in the room. We got too much in here. I can lower the ceiling, but I can only go so much down, and that's not enough. What else can we do? We're gonna have to move a light fixture. We're gonna have to move the duct. We're gonna have to move this diffuser. And the problem was, you know, getting the diffuser out of the main duct, swinging it around through the ceiling and underneath the lights and da-da-da-da-da. It was all, you know, everybody owned a piece except the structural engineer. He can't move anything. So you got a free pass. But we all had to sit down and work all that out at kind of the last minute to make sure that worked. And so that's a frustration, is the wait till the end and I'll apply myself, because, you know, wires are flexible. They're thin, they're flexible, they move around things. What could happen? Well, the light fixtures aren't so flexible. They need to be well placed. Another thing I see quite often is the placement of light fixtures is done with no regard to the reflective ceiling plan, in such a way that if I lay out my reflective ceiling plan, I get a little 2-inch sliver of tile at the perimeter of the room. Well, that's not the way they put up lights. You know, a panel is at least half a panel width. If it's a 24-inch wide panel, that edge is 12 inches or greater. So that all has to be coordinated up front early, or you're going to be redesigning lighting, and you've got it all beautifully laid out that, you know, it's X many columns by X many rows, and it's all beautifully, and I take my whole grid and I shift it 2 feet because you've got it misaligned, and now your lighting layout doesn't work well. Because you've got a light fixture that's now right on the end of the wall, and it's going to throw scallops on the wall. And this side's going to be overlit, and that side's going to be underlit, and, you know. Now, the only other thing I can think of is coordinating the main distribution panels, where they're going to sit, how big that service is going to be. Do I have to provide a exit device out of that room? I got to know that early, because that affects my door hardware. Where's your fire alarm panel going to be? Is it going to be a remote enunciator? Is it all going to be part of the same? Because I'm trying to coordinate my vestibules. So there's all those pieces and parts. Did I gaslight your question, or did I answer it?
No, that's pretty much what I was specifically thinking of the reflected ceiling plan examples. But no, that really answered it. Thank you, Scott.
Okay.
Do we have any other questions?
So thank you for your time and your attention. Oh, I real quick up there was the Craig asked me to give you the Ashrae email address there, so you can find other programs that are available already recorded and other events that are coming up. So there's that link available to you. And I wanted to thank you for your time and your attention and your questions, and I hope this was beneficial to you to get an idea of what an architect does when selecting the team and what they expect from the team and how to define success, and also how to help you be successful in your professional career. Can't either. Thanks.
All right, well, I'm gonna stop recording now.